Nature was my first teacher. I learned so much just by opening my eyes, by listening, by taking myself away from distractions, and by just being curious. It does ask you to slow down, though, to be present, and to tune into your senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What does it feel like? And how does it taste? A naturalist is an expert or a student of nature, someone who is always curious about their natural world and how it works. And you don't need much to begin, just your senses, your naturalist journal, and your curiosity, and we'll provide the rest. This is Fairyland, Flora, and Fauna. Welcome to the Fairyland, Flora, and Fauna series. My name is Michaela Ellis. I'm an educator, an artist, an activist, and a naturalist, or a student of nature. On today's first episode, we are going to be exploring the use of our senses and how we use them to learn from nature. But before we get to our lesson, we're going to need something very special, which is going to be our partner for this series. And that is our naturalist journal, which we will be creating together today. Let's get started. I'm excited. For this project, you will need one composition notebook or journal. You're going to want to start by tearing out any pages that are already used. As a student, a lot of my notebooks were half used, and this is a really great opportunity to give these notebooks a whole new life. You're also going to need something to decorate the covers of your notebook. I had these fun prints lying around, but you can really use anything: wrapping paper, magazine pages, newspaper, stickers. The limit is as high as your imagination takes it. You will also need some scissors, and you're going to need some glue. Try to avoid glued sticks. I find that wet glue works the best, and I had this rubber cement laying around. You're also going to need some pages to create a title on the top of your notebook. And lastly, you're going to need a pencil and a ruler, which I didn't show here, but it's just for marking. Once you have all your materials gathered, we're ready to begin. The first thing you're going to do once you've picked out your paper is you're going to put a thin layer of glue over the top or the cover of your journal. Then you're going to take the paper that you've chosen and place it over the top and flatten it with your hands. Spend some time to smooth it out so you don't get any wrinkles. Next, you're going to cut that sheet to size, giving yourself an inch of extra paper around the edges. Caretakers at home, this is a great project to work together with your naturalist. Fold and crease around the edges of your journal. I find that this extra step is a nice way to make your journal super crisp for when we're gluing. Put a thin strip of glue on the edges of your journal, then fold those pieces down. While we let that dry, we're going to choose another paper for an inside panel. Measure to your liking. I like to leave a little bit of border showing. And caretakers at home, give your naturalist a hand here, measuring width and height. Measure the width and then the height, making markings with your pencil, and trace the outside of the rectangle. Then cut it out. Once you cut your inside panel, finish the edges by folding them in a triangle shape. This isn't a necessary step, but I think it makes it look a little more polished. Glue down the panel and repeat these steps to the back cover. After that, give your journal a little title. Feel free to decorate your title as much or as little as you like. Once you're done gluing it down, You are all done. Now that our journals are complete, we're ready to move on to today's lesson, which is all about our 5 senses that we can use to learn from nature. But what are those 5 senses and how do I use them? Our 5 senses are what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, and what we feel. As naturalists, we tend to wonder and ask questions to get more details about nature. But what questions are important to ask of our senses? If you're tasting something, you might ask yourself, is it sweet, salty, bitter? Does it taste like something I recognize, or does it remind me of anything? For our sight, we look for details like colors, patterns, size, and movement. We might also use this as an opportunity to count how many we see. When we listen, we might wonder, what am I hearing? How loud is it? And where is it coming from? When we use our nose, we can wonder, what does it smell like? Is it a good smell or a bad smell? Smell is the sense that is closely related to memory, so asking yourself what it reminds you of is a good question too. And lastly, for touch, we can ask ourselves, what does it feel like? Is it soft, bumpy, rough, spiky, cold, or hot? The more details you can find, the better. Now that my naturalist journal is complete and I know a little bit more on how to use my senses to observe nature, I'm ready to make my first journal entry where I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna practice using some of those senses to make some observations. Right beside this episode on the magic tree, you will find an activity called My Senses. And you can print this out and paste this into your journal or just write it into your journal yourself. Once you have it, treat yourself to a senses scavenger hunt. You can do this in a park or right outside your house. Challenge yourself to find 2 things for each box and add 3 details about them. You can write, you can draw, or you can do a combination of both. You probably won't taste much on this scavenger hunt, and that's okay. Caretakers at home, if you are working with a young naturalist, you can have them draw or describe what they observe. Well, naturalists, I leave you to your scavenger hunt, and I wish you good luck. Look high, look low, and in places you wouldn't expect. Well, you guys, that's it for our first episode of Fairyland, Flora, and Fauna. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I look forward to seeing you every first Friday of the month right here on the Magic Tree. On our next episode, we're going to be exploring what it means to be alive. Until then, have fun and be curious. If you followed along on today's lesson and made your naturalist journal and your first entry, we want to see it. Share a photo on Instagram and tag us at FairylandCA. See you next month.